Okay, so have you ever poured your absolute heart and soul into a project only for it to be met with, well, total silence? If that sounds familiar, then you're in the right place. We're going to break down an incredibly insightful essay all about that emotional roller coaster of creative work, and more importantly, how to find your way through that thick fog of uncertainty. All right, let's get into it. Yeah, this one, it just hits so close to home for so many of us, right? It's that very specific quiet ache you get when you put something you've worked so hard on out into the world and you get back crickets. That feeling of vulnerability, of frustration, that's exactly where we're starting today. And that feeling, right there, that's the core of what we're talking about today. It's this crushing weight of uncertainty. It's this heavy shadow that creeps in and fuels our deepest self-doubts. And, it makes us want to look around for something or someone to blame. Just think about how completely random it all feels. You can spend weeks, maybe months, perfecting an article, a song, a piece of art, only to watch it just sit there, gathering digital dust. And then, at the same time, your friend posts some random thought on Twitter and it goes viral. It can feel like there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. And that chaos is what makes the uncertainty so incredibly maddening. So, what's our go-to move when things feel so random and frustrating? Well, we invent a scapegoat. We give it a name, we call it luck or fate, or maybe we decide we're just cursed. And sure, it gives us a little bit of relief for a second because it puts the outcome outside of our control. But here's the thing. In the long run, thinking that way is a total trap. So what's actually happening in our brains when we do this? Well, this whole tendency to blame fate, it isn't just a bad habit. There's a name for it. It's a well-known psychological trap called the locus of control fallacy. So what in the world does that mean? Well, according to the American Psychological Association, it's basically when we hand over the steering wheel of our own lives. We start to believe that all the outcomes are determined by these outside forces, luck, the algorithm, the universe, whatever, instead of by our own actions and our own skills. We give away our power. And this really boils down to two totally different ways of looking at the world. On one side, you've got the external locus. That's the voice that says, "Ugh, I'm just unlucky." And that mindset, it just drains the life right out of you. But on the other side, you have the internal locus, and it asks a much more powerful question. Okay, how can I get better? How can I hone my skill? That little shift, focusing on what you can actually control, that's the secret sauce for building real, lasting resilience. Okay, so how do we actually make that shift? This brings us to the most important part, the real turning point in this whole story. It's all about forging your own inner compass. It's about learning to navigate by your own internal guidance system instead of always looking outside for directions and validation. I absolutely love this metaphor. See, your creative life, your career, it isn't some straight upward line to success. No way. It's much more like a wave. There are going to be these amazing peaks, for sure, but there are also going to be valleys. And the key, the absolute key, is to understand that the valleys aren't the end. They're just a natural, even necessary part of the rhythm of the whole thing. And this is what that wave actually looks like in practice. You start in a valley. Maybe you've got low readership or a project didn't pan out. But instead of just staying there, that valley becomes a place for action. It's where you do the self-analysis, where you really hone your skills, and that is the work that leads you to your next peak, your breakthrough. Then, of course, a new challenge comes along, another valley. But you don't see it as a failure anymore. You see it as the beginning of a whole new cycle of growth. And here's the absolute game changer. A setback is not the universe having some personal vendetta against you. It's not. It's simply a pointer. It's data. It's a big flashing arrow nudging you saying, hey, maybe shift your approach over here. The second you start seeing it that way, failure completely loses its power. And instead, it becomes one of your most valuable tools. And look, this isn't just some feel-good, fluffy idea. This shift in mindset has a real, measurable impact. So how much of a difference are we talking about? Well, a recent study from 2023 found that creators who have this kind of self-awareness see a 25% boost in their productivity when they're under pressure. That's a huge deal. That's the power of looking inward to become more effective outward. And, this whole idea of an inner compass, it's not some new age concept. It's been the secret weapon of creative masters for centuries. let's look at some incredible real-world examples of people who navigated their own massive seas of uncertainty using this exact principle. I mean, let's talk about Franz Kafka. This guy was the poster child for creating in total obscurity. He was hit with rejection after rejection. He got almost zero external validation in his lifetime. But he was driven by something else, by this internal need to write. He just kept going. And eventually, of course, his work became a cornerstone of world literature. Or how about Antoni Gaudí? He dedicated his entire life to a single project so enormous he knew he would never live to see it finished. Can you imagine? He was up against huge funding problems, massive technical challenges, but his inner compass, his unwavering faith in his vision, just kept him going year after year. He wasn't building for applause, he was sculpting a legacy. And for a more modern example, just look at J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter was a global phenomenon, she was a struggling single mom getting rejected by publisher after publisher. But instead of just blaming her bad luck, she got to work. She relentlessly honed her craft, draft after draft, guided by the story she knew deep down she just had to tell. It's a total masterclass in trusting your own process. So we've seen these incredible examples of how this inner compass has guided others, but now it's about you. The final step here is to turn this lesson inward. This is a call to action. It's a call to start tuning out the noise and start listening to your own internal guidance system on your own unique journey. So let's boil all this down. First, start seeing uncertainty not as your enemy, but as the forge where your creativity is sharpened. Second, remember that your inner compass isn't magic. It's a tool you build from self-belief and your own values. Third, listen for that internal hum, that quiet feeling of satisfaction you get when you know you've done good work, no matter what the world says. And finally, start seeing those external forces not as burdens, but as helpful pointers, guiding you on your way. And so this really leaves us with one last big question for you to take with you. It's not about if you'll face doubt, because you will, we all do. It's about how you navigate it. So take a second and really think about it. In your work, in your life, how does your compass guide you?